The Doctor Strange Master of the Mystic Arts Omnibus. This is volume 1. Basically, it's the Bronze Age one. And the stories are from 1972 to 1977. However, I think of this as really volume 3. I've got volume 1 and volume 2. And you've got Steve Englehart, Frank Brunner and Gene Colan. And of course, many others as well. It's got about 770 odd pages. Got a fair amount of bonus material at the back, which is great. I paid about £60 for it. And the book comes in at $100 in the US. So this came out March 2025. So let's just go through it. And you've got here all the various people involved. Great selection of inkers, letterers, etc. And contents there. So you can see 1972 all the way through to 1977. Doctor Strange, issue 22. The early stories are all from Marvel Premiere. Got good old introductions, all generally from Marvel Masterworks. And then you get the covers, of course. This was probably one of the first ever ones I ever got in Darkly Were and Golden Eyed. Just remember picking it up. I thought, wow, what a brilliant issue this was. Now, I don't think these were regularly in the shops, these Marvel Premiere ones. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But generally, I always got them from Darkly Were and Golden Eyed. The reason I love this, Barry Windsor Smith. Just loved his work. And of course, Barry Smith, it says there. But the artwork, just brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant stories. He's got Nightmare in the first one. As far as I'm concerned, my favourite, one of my favourite Doctor Strange Mails. This, of course, the great thing about all these various omnibuses, they include the letter pages. You got this as well. It says here, featuring concepts created by Robert E. Howard. I always felt it was more H.P. Lovecraft. That was my thing, the Spawns of the Sliggers. It just felt more like Cthulhu. But, well, who knows? Probably there are some stories, obviously, Harry Howard, that obviously use those. But I've never actually read them. But they were great stories. He goes obviously to this town, this small little hamlet, and there's of course some various dubious looking characters that all obviously got this problem skin condition. But of course there's all mystical powers involved. And of course Doctor Strange finds that his powers are not as super strong as they used to be for some weird reason. I don't know why, but there's an evil influence across the village, just out or town. You got here the Lurker in the Labyrinth is the next issue here. And again, you got just coming through there. And it's a bit of a problem for Doctor Strange, isn't it? He hasn't got his powers, so he obviously has to use his wits to actually solve the various dubious characters he faces. This character looks really very pleasant, doesn't he? And then, of course, he gets lost in this cavern, goes down there. He's attacked by all these various bats and things. And also, not only that, at the same time, inconveniently, the Ancient One is also under attack from certain. He gets carried off by these various characters. That story obviously is resolved a little bit later. Clear has sold how to sort this out, because obviously this was smashed, and the orb is sold by a bit of glue, I think, that she obviously bought from a local shop. And you've got here the Sliggers, and of course the coming of Shumagorath, which of course comes a little bit later in the storyline. Falls down this crevasse, and then he's got a problem here with this woman obviously just going to sort of run him through there. Death by drowning as well. The Shambler from the Sea. And you got there's obviously Marvel Premiere at 6. Looks pretty bad, doesn't he? A Shambler from the Sea. You wouldn't want to face him. Maybe face Submariner at some point. Who knows? But anyway, brilliant artwork here. I just love Frank Brunner artwork. And you got Monsters, Madness and Mirth. I never ever saw a copy of that ever. Don't know where they ever turned up. But you got the Dagoth. What sort of Dagon, maybe? Dagoth, Shadows of the Starstone. A bit of story when they go to London. Actually, I think there's some really weird scenes with him going around London asking for. It never looks, or I think it's like, obviously England. Is that really? No, anyway. I don't think people are that bad about the public transport. If someone asks you, about the buses, you tell them, oh, the time to the bus to that place. Oh, yeah, definitely go there. You want to. But there he is. He's obviously got this face in this creature here. Again, Submariner would be very, very handy here. Obviously got these people who've got some problems there. But Clear's involved. But not only that, you've obviously got here where poor old Doctor Strange, I think that was probably the early story, gets zapped by a bit of hypnosis. He sort of gets dragged into the sea. That's a bit of a problem for older Doctor Strange, I think. However, he does call on the various mystical forces you can see there, who don't generally seem to help him very much for really all the things he's done for him. But... and there he goes, obviously, to Stonehenge as well. I must admit, that looks a pretty impressive Stonehenge. I've never seen it like that. Maybe, probably good that I don't. But still, you got this here, Venus sort of, again, the dreaded to die, etc., etc. And, of course, he's battling against this, very inconvenient thing, isn't it, that thing. But you've got another good old, actually quite a few, actually, Frank Brunner as well, which is just absolutely great. 2010 there. And then you got the Crypts of Colan. And of course, you got here resolving that story that was mentioned earlier about the Ancient One. So, but of course, it's all quite convenient because, of course, with all this, he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. He gets all the various things that gives him sort of immortality, and you got obviously he has to go into the Ancient One and all those sort of things and battle away. Really lends itself to some quite dramatic, I think, pages. A bit like the Vision one with Ant-Man, I suppose. But you've got this character getting dragged around. He should be, but then obviously there the Ancient One. He's looking pretty awful as well, isn't he? The host, hoary hosts, etc., etc. And then you've got the Ancient One. He's obviously become part of the universe, etc. And of course, he's now on his own, and he's going to, well, obviously got this guy looking over him, of course, the Ancient One. But on to Mordo. However, we haven't actually in this story because we've got a bit of a thing with a bit of reprints. This has got a sort of the sequence that they put in the thing, and then off to actually thing, which they don't, of course, include because that's probably in volume 1 of the Doctor Strange omnibuses. As always, the letter pages, plus, of course, you've always got these, which I just always love, the adverts. I would love to see a whole book of adverts. I'd be happy with that. Doorway to Doom. That's and that obviously it. Now, the artwork here, it's a bit odd one, Frank Brunner. Bit of a change there, I think. The start, I suppose, just obviously, of course, as always, depends on the inker. I don't know who he is. Sea Bunker. And you've got, obviously, walking there, Doctor Strange walking through various things, and he faces his guy, send you straight to hell. Oh, how nice. Probably asking him a question. He always just sort of wanders along. Some person randomly decides to, foolish mortal. They always say that one. And on to the next set of stories. And got, I think this is Baron Mordo one again, is it? Yes, Baron Mordo. Good old Baron Mordo there. We shall meet again. I don't know why he keeps bothering. He's never going to beat him. Cis Neg Genesis. You can tell the clue there, obviously a name. It completely fooled me back in the day. I'm quite certain. It is God, obviously, there, because he's going back to the dawn of the universe, dawn of creation, I should say. And then Marvel is on the move again. Cisneg Genesis. I remember buying this in the shop. I thought, wow, the Master of Menace. A bit of a long name there. Caglis, looks like whatever his name is. Death at the Dawn of Time, Book of Revelations. And you, of course, got here the storyline. All pretty dramatic stuff. Bit of dinosaurs, you can't beat a dinosaur, bit of action there. And then, of course, you got, wow, the beginning of the universe, Genesis. However, it might have been the Genesis, but it was the end of this book, Marvel Premiere. Now, I'm not certain what the next issue, who was in Marvel Premiere after that, but we got Doctor Strange gets his own issue here, and we got here Through an Orb Darkly, and luckily we got a bit of entertainment from Clear as she does a bit of abracadabra. But, however, because of various things, it's like it goes slightly wrong, which is not very good, is it? But there's the Silver Dagger. This character comes in it. Clearly he's got a dagger and he's got various mystical powers. But you would have thought that I love this character, this worm, very, very similar to the ones, obviously, probably Captain Marvel. I always felt that was the thing. Or is it some other character? Who knows? But we've got here Sergeant Fury, Marvel value stamps, and we got obviously a little bit there talking about a special announcement. There's nothing better than a special announcement. Not going to read that, but you've got here I love that. That is just really quite dramatic, that, when he goes off and slices his head off there. But you've got the dynamic defenders in a world he never made. Some really great artwork. Silver Surfer, of course, there. And you've got, obviously, the Hulk and Let's Kill Him. Yeah, hang on. Where did Spidey's son, and obviously the Valkyries there, but Black Panther, I can't remember them being in Defenders particularly. So we've got a few more characters than the Defenders. And you, of course, got an opportunity for the Hulk to give his usual rage there. Cease, creature, as he says, sort of. And then you've got Death there. Good old Death. And the dreaded Dormammu. However, got a bit of Steve Ditko there. Because, of course, this one is, again, another one where they frame an old story from Ditko. You got letters pages, of course, and the Savage Sword of Conan, giant size. And we're on to Where Boundaries Decay. I remember this one. Doctor Strange meets Death. Wow, what a great story. It was a great little story as well, I must admit. And Death is everywhere. Yes. But, of course, there's Eternity as well there. And onto the Silver Dagger. Now, I mean, this is Doctor Strange is getting all these sort of abilities and everything, and yet he still has problems against characters like Silver Dagger, Cloak and Dagger. Well, you got that character. Stephen, I think, again, the artwork was just absolutely great. Though it does change. Let's just go to the next one. And we got this by Gene Colan. Actually, slightly odd, Gene Colan. This is Umar. When you look at it, yeah, I suppose, yeah, it is. It's just obviously after a while being used to the Frank Brunner, but it's slightly different from his Daredevil work, I think. Definitely, again, of course, the Incas that were there. And of course, got Marvel subscription and the Watcher. And then you got Demon Fever, even. The Demon Fever. Okay, you must read Demon Fever. Gene Colan again. Again, Uma, Clear, of course, all the characters all involved there. Dormammu, of course, all sort of going to turn up a little bit later. And, of course, you can get the old father of Clear as well. And Dormammu, there he is, breaking through there. And, of course, he's sort of holding Earth there. Listen to the spirits scream, etc., etc. Ah, great stuff. And he bursts through there. And you can see, obviously, how it all ends. Of course, it all ends well, doesn't it? We know that Doctor Strange will, of course, be... And I love the end bit. Sorry, a bit of spoiler. It's going to be hard. I just love sort of putting it, framing it within the comic as well. Alone against Eternity. And again, you've got another one of these. Always great. And Eternity Lives. Alone against Eternity. You think they'd be best buddies by now. But Eternity, Doctor Strange, merging, becoming one with Eternity. Some, again, very cosmic scale artwork. And I loved this when it was, I still love it now, actually. It's still really wow. Just great stuff. However, we go on to this, Shadowplay, the mystic battle, his big gun. Of course, gives an opportunity to defeat spectres from his own grim past. And onto this story. Well, all various characters are obviously there. Stop, it's the Prisoner Master. If this be Doomsday, final... Hang on, there's the Angel. Who is it? Who I'm not certain who he is. Praise one. Magic is mine once more. If this be Doomsday. Because we got madness is... And we've got a bit of a problem there, because it looks like the Earth is... Planet Earth is no more. That was a big story. I think he was the only one that knew anything about it. I was always a bit surprised by that. You would think that someone like Odin and various other characters, all like Thor and everything, would have known a bit about this. But no, obviously in this case, alone against Eternity again. But planet Earth is no more. And of course, conveniently, he's given an opportunity to, obviously, everyone becomes back to the same thing. And we go on to the next story. I love that one. That's quite good. Mate. Marvel value stamps there. I think that's an Asgard one. The Tomb of Dracula. I thought it was just a brilliant story. I just love this one. With Dracula obviously getting Wong here. Gets him. And of course, Doctor Strange also, unfortunately, has the same problem. I mean, that's a real big problem battling against Dracula. I don't think Dracula really should have had much of a chance against Doctor Strange personally. But still... Clearly he does, and you can see there the Tomb of Doctor Strange. But you know he's going to sort it out. Again, he has to use his wits to actually solve it. And then on to the next story, which is a real good one, because we've got here a bit of time travel story coming into this, which I think's really good. So we've got going into this one. Let's see, where's that? Oh no, we've got this one, we've got Uma again. It's Mandarin. Oh, which Mandarin are we talking about? Are we talking about character? I was going to get to this. Yes, this is what I was looking for. I knew it was somewhere a bit further. For me, these were my favourite stories. This story, they go back in time. I mean, I'm always surprised they never did more of that in Doctor Strange. There was such an opportunity for them to do sort of stories where it was set in different times with obviously all his magical abilities. And you got here Benjamin Franklin. I suppose, of course, this was 1976. I just thought about that, to be honest. It was pretty good, I guess, since it obviously being the 200th of that year. But there's some twists, of course. But it was just great sort of action. Clear and Benjamin Franklin. I remember reading this at the time thinking, wow, this is just like... And, yeah, just... Okay, on to the next story. This was an odd one. I mean, I have to say, the artwork really was odd. Very odd story. And... Plain on a universe gone mad, and this was Xander the Merciless. Okay, give me power, the power, etc., etc. So he's battling yet another person. But this, for me, was the ultimate story as far as P.K. Craig Russell. I Always loved his work. And this one is just one of those, just great one. Doom World. Just a really, really brilliant long story and just full of just some great artwork. And I've always enjoyed his opera adaptations. Are just some of my favourites. I just love those. But also he's done so many other great stories as well. And this one is definitely no exception. I just think it's just brilliant. Then you've got Mind Trap. Now, we'd got another one of these ones where probably there was some reprints. So that was issue 21. And then we're on to issue 22. And we've got Frank Brunner cover. And we've got here Rudy Nebris. And I think it must have done the inking as well. It doesn't mention any ink there. But that's it. That is the run through of all those. But what we got is lots and lots of great, wonderful bonus material. And there's actually quite a few pages. You can see there's a lot of pages of bonus material. You can't beat that. Some great covers, some ink pages, of course. Some more great ones, of course. Shuma Gara, I love that. Sisnik, I love that they include the pencil pages. It's always such a pity so many pencil pages obviously gone. They've been... So it's always nice that when people obviously took a photocopy, so you could actually see the original pencils. Just brilliant. Just really love that. And again, some more artwork there. And again, that brilliant one with Death there. And onto, of course, P. Craig Russell. Again, some more brilliant artwork. And some more P. Craig Russell there. More P. Craig Russell. And, of course, some lovely Marvel Treasury edition as well. Just absolutely brilliant, that one. That was issue 6. Just great. Brilliant poster there, isn't it? That's a pin-up, as it says there. And versus Dracula, of course, you've got there the editorial owl ones as well. So that is the Doctor Strange Master of the Mystic Arts. Let's just run through a few comics and omnibuses and epics. Now, these are Marvel premieres, issue 5 and 7. I bought them at the time. I really, really loved all these ones. And I bought them from Dark They Were and Golden Eyed. Just a great shop. Probably the Berwick Street one, though it could have been in St Anne's Court. Always enjoyed visiting there. And these just great little stories here. You can see, obviously, slightly not in the greatest of condition. They've been read multiple times. And, of course, got Clear, you've got the Ancient One. And you've, of course, got all the various other supporting characters that turn up here. And, obviously, here, no, we're surely doomed. Of course they are. There he is. Now he's being zapped. Of course, he's getting dragged to the sea by this guy. And come to your doom, as it says there. Well, obviously that didn't happen. But still, on to the brilliant Omnibus volume 1 with Ditko. I mean, this is just probably, for me, the classic of all of them. I just love this one. Of course, here's the first issue. However, weirdly, of course, we didn't know the origin at this point. I just think that just an odd story. Always wondered whether they had really any intention to actually do the origin. Obviously, they've got lots of people saying, well, let's tell us how it all started. You've got Baron Mordo. But there was a few issues before they actually got around to do the origin. And here you can see the classic origin of Doctor Strange. And then, but the thing was at the time, of course, it was sharing it with the Strange Tales, Human Torch and the Thing. And, of course, got Nightmare back again. Mordo turned up quite a lot in those early issues. But we had some really great little stories like The Possessed, Beyond the Purple Veil. So we're sort of expanding out to some very weird and wonderful mystical things. You've got this like lovely house that was alive. Just great stories. And, of course, got there Mordo bashing away against, obviously, Doctor Strange. Of course, Doctor Strange solves it. And Nightmare turns up again. That's recurring character here. Also, we had a great little story here, of course, with Thor as well. Just Thor and Loki. Lovely crossover there. However, for me, it was just the epic adventure. And it's very rarely ever really mentioned. People always remember the Avengers and Defenders sort of epic as the classic ones like that. Of course, the Galactus story. And yet, for me, this was probably the true epic of the 60s. The Doctor Strange one. And it's just great. I mean, it ran for about 20, 25 issues. It was just, for me, just across the world. He was always battling all these various people. He was on the run. He's like Dormammu there. He goes and meets Clear for the first time. You've also got here various characters there. I love the letter pages, of course, with the checklists here as well. And the Demon's Disciple. The story continued on. We had some pin-ups there, and we still got more of the story, and then we still on the run. So it really went on for everywhere. It became a sort of like spy story. It was like everything was thrown into the story. What an epic from Ditko. Just absolutely masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. And then you got, of course, Mordo getting the superpowers from Dormammu, and he's sort of battling, and then, of course, then he goes on to another story where he's, of course, got Clear there. The artwork was brilliant. Really superb mystical battle, and still more of this epic. Again, for me, an absolute, and still going. And then we get Eternity. I mean, it's non-stop. Doctor Strange faces Doom. And again, Doctor Strange, you've got all these various characters coming through to see this final battle with Dormammu and Mordo, and let there be victory. I think that's given a bit of a clue about the storyline, isn't it? But wow, obviously a little television there, so you can watch it there. Because at this time, we're old. I mean, you had all these epics, and yeah, on the cover, you still had like a shield. I mean, there were, of course, some covers with Doctor Strange. You got there, very odd one there. Again, most of the cover is taken up by Nick Fury, which is just really odd when you had probably one of the greatest stories that Marvel ever did. And then you got another look, dramatic, which continued on. It was wow. And of course, you got the bonus things at the back. Then on to this one, which I think is also pretty decent, but not as good as Volume 1. I mean, obviously the artwork is really amazing, Gene Colan, etc. But still, it's not Ditko. Ditko, for me, was always... This one's I love. I love these ones. Dan Adkins, artist. Really, really unusual stories, but still just great. Great characters there. The end of the Asian one. And even this sort of carried on that story. Sort of linked, sort of went on. We had Uma, we had all the various Dormammu, etc. So it was sort of a continuation of that. Not that. It wasn't straight away. I always found that it was like so relentless. He never had any time to sleep. It was just sort of like constant. They didn't like give him any rest. And of course, you've got Uma there again. And all the various other characters there. However, that's the Doctor Strange one. Of course, Dormammu on the front cover there. But I wanted to show you these because these are the epics. And the epics ones, now, as always with these epics and omnibuses, I've got, of course, this. And I'm just going to drag this over again and put it here. You got this one. And you can see the issues, and you've got back there, you've got Marvel Premier 314, Doctor Strange 1 to 22, Annual and number 1, and Tomb of Dracula 44. So if we go to these epic collections, you can see the epic collection is really good, really excellent. And you've got all the stories here. Doctor Strange issue 6. So you've got obviously the stories there. So that, what did I say, 22, Doctor Strange 22. So we got all the way through to this one. Doctor Strange, obviously got the Tomb of Dracula one there. Got Doctor Strange all the way 22. So you've got to Mind Trip. And then after that, you've got the Quadverse ones and these ones. So these stories are not included in Omnibus. I assume they will be included in the Bronze Age Volume 2 one. So you've got these stories, great stories still. Again, Uma there. But we got this. And this one does include a bit of a, again, slight mix of the stories because we've got the Volume 2 Omnibus. That includes some of these ones, the 180, 183, etc. Submariner 22, Hulk 126, etc. Because it does include Marvel Feature 1 in this epic, but that's included in Volume 2. But you've got here Marvel Premier 3 to 14, and then Doctor Strange 1 to 5. So it does. There's a bit of overlap, obviously that, but the overlap is also with the Volume 2 Omnibus edition to confuse things, the Silver Age one. But still, great stories in this one. Really, really good issue with... I love these ones, the proto sort of Defenders stories. Just great ones with obviously the Submariner and the Titans 3, etc., etc. So that is this absolutely brilliant collection of stories. Really favourite stories in this. Ones that I just loved when they came out. And it's just a joy to read through them again. So this one, Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts, even if it's slightly confusing by being a Volume 1 and not actually indicating anywhere, particularly that it's a Bronze Age one, which is very odd way of doing it, but I guess the title is slightly different from the Doctor Strange one. However, did you pick this up? Are you going to pick this book up? Got any plans for it? And also, what other ones are you going to get? Only ones I've got at the moment I'm really, really looking forward to, and I do not know why they haven't turned up in the shop yet. Or maybe they have turned up in the shop, I just haven't seen them. That is the Marvel Team Up. Marvel Team Up Omnibus 1 seems to be, at the moment, still only readily available on the continent and also in Europe, obviously, Germany, etc., but also from in America, of course. Though I think they're copies on Amazon. I don't know. But anyway, it just seems odd for the moment. There doesn't seem to be, I assume by now, because it was apparently released on about the 9th of December. So I don't know why they're not sort of popping up on various sites at the moment. well, I'm looking forward to that one anyway. So that will definitely be one I'll be getting. Obviously, hopefully a volume 2 will come out of Marvel Team Up as well, of course, a volume 2 of this will be great as well. Bye.